Welcome back, peoples, to How Good Was It? Welcome back to the second half of our Mission Impossible review. We have watched this movie. Joe and I literally just finished watching this movie, all but like 5 minutes ago.
Oh
Made
yeah.
poor Scott wait. Oh, wait. Hello, Scott.
Hey, welcome back, June.
And hello, Joe AP.
Hey June, what's up, Scott?
What's going on, Joe?
What is up, fellas? Great to be back with you. As always, even better to be back in this edition that is Mission Impossible.
Oh yeah. Dun
And
dun 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 dun.
yes,
Dun. Oh,
yes,
sorry.
cue theme song because it
We
was
don't need
all in there,
soundtrack for that,
wasn't it?
June.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, thank
I
you.
got it. It was perfect rendition.
Scott provides. So yeah, let's take a deep dive into Mission Impossible. It was quite interesting revisiting this movie. As usual, I did not remember a thing. And that is part of the course for this podcast.
Yes,
I never
yes.
remember anything. All those LSD experiments in the 50s by the government, they took a toll.
So you're saying your mom did LSD in the 50s?
No, I did the LSD.
You weren't in the 50s. You weren't born yet.
Listen, as we all saw in Dial of Destiny,
Oh,
if you
okay.
have the right
You went through a
tools,
fissure in time. I got you. I got you.
yes, and I went specifically to take drugs.
I
It's
got
all
you.
drug related. That being said, Mission Impossible. So it was quite interesting revisiting this movie. I forgot a lot about it, and this is the first in this franchise.
Yes.
And being as such, the first thing I want to, before we get into the plot, the first thing I want to make note of is it was easy to forget that this is a takeoff on the original Mission Impossible TV series.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie was a strong reminder of that, wasn't
Oh
it?
no, for sure. Of all the Mission Impossible movies, this one was most like the TV series. They were most like, okay, we're gonna do it similar style. And I think they got it way away from it after this. This was
Oh,
like the only
yeah.
one that was like this.
It was like night and day, wasn't it? I
Yeah.
forgot. They did a good job of capturing elements of the TV series.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I was that old that I was watching it as it came out. I saw it when it was
Yeah.
on syndication on TV when I was
Yeah.
a younger child. But yeah, I mean, everything including the campiness,
Yeah.
which was not a bad element, not a bad thing that was part of the original series, but it was really like a modern take or a then modern take, a 90s take
Yeah.
on the franchise, or at least the TV series, I should say.
Well, yeah, and the TV series, what they have in common a lot is the mask, right? They're always pulling off a mask. They're always doing an alias, and and the same with when they get the mission, it detonates right after, right? That's something. I watched this and I watched two. I watched them both today,
Mm.
and man, two is a piece of crap, but two is really bad. It's glaring next to how much better the first one is than two. Better directed, better shot, better acted. Yeah, I like John Woo, but man, it is not a good film. And yeah, watching one, I watched two first, then I watched one. The way it was meant to be. I watched them
Mhm.
out of order, and man, one was so much better, so much better.
Yeah, I don't remember much of two. I know in the first half of this episode you touched upon what a disappointment it was, and obviously by the tone of your voice, it was much more of a disappointment than even you remember.
Oh yeah,
Sounds like.
yeah. No, I kind of thought I was gonna like it. I'm like, I probably was just hard on it when I saw it in the theaters, because that's the
Mhm.
last time I saw it was in the theaters, and I'm like, no, I actually it's worse than I thought. I'm surprised, that the franchise recovered after two. I'm really surprised that there was other films that two was that bad in my mind.
Yeah.
So why did they choose John Woo for the second part? What
He
was
was
the
a hot
reason behind it?
name. He was coming off a Face Off.
Mhm.
He does action films.
Yes.
Probably Tom Cruise probably picked him. Tom Cruise probably was like, oh man, I like
Because
this.
of the action packed
Yeah,
that he
I think
provide.
so. And
Yeah.
there was some cool stunts in it, but other than that, it looked bad. I mean, some of the stunts were cool, but all the slow-mo, John Woo's got to get his birds in there. There's doves and there's pigeons flying around slow-mo, and it's just, and
Hey man, he's
I was
Asian. He need that kind of props out. What do you call it?
trope, but
Tropes, yeah.
it's just, I was questioning if Tom Cruise could act when I was watching it, because I'm like, man, he just doesn't seem like he can act, and I think it's a direction. It's totally different. The way the scenes are framed in the first movie compared to the second, and just the way it looks. The first one is, I want to say, 4 years younger. It came out in 96, and then the second one was 2000.
Wow.
It looks way more advanced. It looks way better than the one in 2000. It's like night and day.
And let's keep it real, in revisiting the first one, of course, this is like what, mid 90s? I think we said like 96 or so.
96, yeah.
And, it was a movie of its time. So, I mean, the technology back then, it looked, back for the time, it was,
Oh yeah, some of the
high-tech.
technology. I mean, it looked good. Even the helicopter scene at the end, which could be a little bit like fakey looking, but it actually looked pretty good.
It holds up.
Some of the technology, some of the cell phones they're holding, and the computers in there kind of look dated. But other than that,
disk.
the movie
What
looks
was
great.
it? What's that disc they used?
You used a floppy disk, right?
The floppy disk, yeah.
Yeah, I did get a kick out of that scene with that floppy disk. I was like, holy moly. But again, we forget, man, this was considered high tech for the 90s. This was like, cutting edge.
I didn't have a cell phone in 96, so to me that was like, oh, those cell phones, those house phones that they're using in the movie that look like cell phones.
Yeah,
it was nice.
Yeah, nobody had own computer at that time. I don't think anybody had a computer at home.
Yeah, he had laptops. I definitely didn't have a laptop then.
And those were like some big, thick, chunky laptops too, man. Not like the slim MacBooks that we're used to now. So, Mission Impossible. Let's get into this. Should we take a dive into the plot, or is there anything that we should add on to?
No, I'm ready.
Who would like to start us off?
Scott.
I guess I'm the one that always starts this off. All right.
Of course.
So this movie opens up in Kiev, which I had to look up because I'm an England American and I didn't realize I was in Ukraine. So it opens up in Kiev. I wanted to make sure I sounded like I knew what I was doing. And they're on an op mission. You see a Russian being interrogated through like a closed circuit camera. And it looks like he killed a prostitute. And then they're trying to get some kind of information from this guy. And you find out that it's Tom Cruise in the mask, right? He's trying to, they inject the guy with something, knock him out. And they're trying to, I don't even remember, what did they end up getting from him? Was it a name, or was a name that Emilio Estevez, who's watching on closed circuits, surprise, surprise, the guest cameo there is Emilio Estevez is over there, and he looks up the name. He's trying to pull a name for something.
Yeah. Now that Russian guy who's being interrogated, is it me, or did he have the worst haircut on earth?
He had a pretty
Even
bad
for the
haircut.
90s, it was pretty. At first, I thought it was a wig until they kind of pulled on it, and I was like, Jesus Christ, that really is his hair. That's besides the point, though.
And I think I could tell that was Tom Cruise. I mean, I guess maybe because I've seen the movie, but I mean, that definitely looked like Tom Cruise in a mask. And then, Tom Cruise, the one thing every time he's in any of these characters in this movie, his nose stands out. Tom Cruise has a very prominent nose. And that's what I always go to. I'm like, oh, no, that's Tom Cruise. I see that nose.
Plus, just the way he moves. He has a very distinct way that he moves his body, his motions. And it was like, very apparent that he was in these disguises.
Yeah. And he has that intense psychopath stare also.
Oh, yes. Yes. He could see right through you. Like, yes. That's Scientology in full effect. So,
do we remember what the mission was for? I think it has really nothing to do with the movie, whatever they recover, right?
Not really. I think it was just sort of a plot point, a small one, to introduce his team.
Yeah.
who they quickly dispose of. But we'll get to that.
Okay, so then we meet John Voight, who's playing his boss.
Mhm.
I don't remember John Voight's character's name because he'll always be John Voight to me.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll introduce the boss on a plane, and then he gets the stewardess comes up to him and gives him a movie. Asks him if he wants to watch a movie, gives him this little tiny screen, and then he gets his next mission on it. You know, he gets a mission, and of course the screen blows up or smokes up after his
on the plane.
his mission. Yeah, very safe.
Because
And
you
so
know, back then
what-
you could, I don't know if you could still smoke on a plane back then. I don't think so. By the 90s, they kind of
96,
obliterated
probably
that.
not. Yeah, I don't think so.
So
But
he was
anyway.
trying to smoke a cigarette to cover up the burns
Did he?
disc. Yeah, he put
Did
out
he?
his cigarette and
Really?
smoked.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
You know, when you're John Voight, you could break all the rules. You could do
Yeah.
whatever the F you want. So it's John Voight.
When did he stop smoking on the plane?
Hey, it's got to be the early 90s, I think, early to mid 90s. I remember the first time I flew, there was a smoking section still on the plane.
Yeah.
And then the second time I flew, it was already gone.
Yeah. When I was a kid and we would take a summer trip to DR. And I remember, man, that freaking tube, that flying tube was full of smoke. It was like everybody, it was like, despite there being a smoking section, it didn't matter if you separated people. It was like, it was over the whole plane.
Yeah, I mean, it's a plane. It's gonna circulate. I don't care what they what kind of ventilation it has. It's still you're gonna smell smoke no matter what.
That is true.
But it was
So-
a part of our life. You know, everywhere we went, there was smoke, and I don't think I ever really noticed it until there started being no smoking section. Now, if someone smokes, I can smell it a mile away. But back in the day, it was a part of life. Everywhere you went, someone was smoking.
So the year 2000 was when they had stopped smoking international flights.
On international flights.
Yeah.
2000.
So, yeah.
Wow.
This movie is 96. So apparently you still can smoke then.
Oh yeah, he was on an international flight, right? He was going because the next scene to go back to the movie, they end up in Prague. So they're being debriefed there, and he's giving them the new mission. John Voight's giving the mission. And there's some like banter. They try to make it look like everyone's buddies on the team, and Tom Cruise comes across as not as a human. Like I think one thing I've noticed about Cruise all the time, he's great at doing the action and being intense, but if they try for him to be light and try to be buddy, he comes off wooden almost. Like him joking around with Estevez just didn't work. It just didn't seem right.
Yeah, it felt a little forced.
Yeah.
Especially when he did that, he cracked that joke about the coffee and getting a coffee maker. And I was like, Jesus Christ, dude, like you might as well be reading it off of the teleprompter.
Yeah, that's not his cup of tea.
Yeah, it didn't have to be though. He's so good at all the other stuff. So but then they're meeting with John Voight and they're getting the details
intel
on their mission.
Yeah, somebody's out to get the knock list. There's a lot of knock list talk in this movie. I even remembered that in the first half of the episode. I remembered that it was called the knock list that they were after, which I don't know what it stands for. It's NOC, but it's supposed to be the operatives, all the CIA operatives that are out undercover. And it's a list of all their names. So I thought it was like
an STD or something.
He's out to get an STD. That's similar though. That's kind of like the second movie. There's some big plague that they're trying to stop. So yeah.
It was the Noculus.
You
got a bad case of the Noculus. Hello, and thanks for joining us at How Good Was It? If you enjoyed this video, you can listen to full-length episodes on your favorite streaming platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Google, and Overcast.
Or by using the link to our direct RSS feed in the description below.
Remember to like, follow, and subscribe.